Hey guys, it's the commissioner. Not a happy commissioner right now. Got my butt kicked, but we'll get to that matchup later. Let's recap all the matchups from week 2 uh, in rapid succession. I hope anyway. Kia Sorrento match of the week. Again, I called it fewest combined points, mainly because of Ivan, not so much because of Rob. Uh, Rob destroyed Ivan. No real shock here. I don't know what Baloney one slash what Bean Snap slash Jaquiz 2 Jafarlik Bogan shoots. I don't even know if Ivan knows what he's doing here, and I know he is a rookie, but he could really use a guy like DeMarco about now. Decided to leave $120 in cap room, leaving the auction. DeMarco was looking like a stud. Went for, what, 79? I don't know. Maybe there's a learning curve here. The X factors that I said for Jibo, I said wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Was playing two guys that scored 0 in the first week, and they both did better this week, but they combined for 4 points. So, in Jaquiz's X factor, I said as long as he fields a starting lineup, he will win. I was correct. So, matchup not even close. Nothing Ivan could have done with the players that are actually on his team. So I did get that one right. Masonites over Fear Boners. Was wrong on this one. Doug, not in an 0-2 hole. I think I said 2-0 on my preview video, but not in a 2-game hole in his division. I did say that his X factors were going to be Romo and Witten. They did not perform well again this week. So if they continue to struggle, Doug could be in for a long year. Unless Jordy plays like he played yesterday. Over 200 yards, a touchdown, 10 receptions, over 30 points. He had the most points in the league this week. I was very happy with that because I've got him in the other league. So I'm giving Jordy the week MVP for this week. Febo's X Factor, I said Jordan Cameron, that he was a huge upgrade over his other tight ends. But he did not miss him very much because Delaney Walker. Who? 30 points for Delaney. The second X factor for him, I did say, was Alan Hearns and his Kevin Ogletree award. Yeah, he's going to hang on to that Kevin Ogletree award. Only 3 points this week after his breakout game in week 1. I said that the running backs here were pretty weak. On one side, I was correct. Fergie only put up 6 out of his 2 starting running backs. Doug did have a good showing with Ingram and West. Mark Ingram is injured, is out for a while. More on that later. Speaking of tight ends coming out of nowhere, Gates, 3 touchdowns on Doug's bench, but that could help him going forward. Now this is a bit of a stretch, but Febo actually could have won this matchup. They would have just had to play Cutler over Brady, Mercedes Lewis over Dwayne Allen, and Joik over Hyde. If he made those 3 switches, he would have won. Now, one of these is a completely defensible mistake, playing Dwayne Allen over Mercedes Lewis. I don't know where these tight end performances are coming from in this particular matchup. There was a toss-up, Brady between Cutler, although Cutler was not supposed to have his 2 stud wide receivers. And then the what the F were you thinking playing Carlos Hyde over Joik Bell? Hyde is behind Gore. I know Joik is in a timeshare, but he's in the bigger half of a timeshare in Detroit. I don't really understand why you played Hyde. But just Hyde, that wouldn't have made a difference. You would have had to play all 3 of those. I did not get that one right either. I had a bad week. Organized Chaos over Forte Dash. I did not get this one right either. Chaos's X Factor. Can he play triple digits? Or can he put up triple digits? Will Cam Newton play? Yes and yes. The Dash's X Factor. Le'Veon, can he continue his hot streak? He had 16 points. Not spectacular. Not bad, though. A bright spot for Justin for Organized Chaos. Watkins showed up. 25 points. Had one pretty spectacular catch that I saw, so maybe that's good for him going forward. This one was close, and Forte Yard Dash could have Could have won if they played, a backup running back for their own team instead of Gerhart, who's supposed to be this bell cow. Jacksonville looked terrible all the way around. I think Gerhart had 2 points. If Mike would have played Jeremy Hill or Niall Davis, no, at the beginning of the day, you're not going to play those guys. But 17 for Hill and 27 for Niall Davis, which could be really valuable. More on that to come as well. So got that one wrong. My Stone Cold Lead Pipe lock of the week. I got this right. It was close. It came down to the fourth quarter of Monday Night Football. It was not over until Foles threw that touchdown to Macklin. I think Durs was sweating a little bit. But Durs did get the win over Bork. Fisters over the Busters. Fisters, X Factor, Demarius, had a decent bounce back game from his poor week 1 performance, 17 points. Borkham, I said his X Factor was Austin Safarian Jenkins. Is that really who you're going to rely on? He took my advice and he put him on his bench, and that was good because Jenkins scored 0 points. But Malcolm Floyd, who he put in instead, also scored 0, so nothing really lost or gained there. So even though this was close, it came down to the last quarter of the last game of the week, nothing Bork could have done. He played pretty much his best lineup. He's got no depth on his bench. So just nothing he could do. The next matchup, Chris falls 0-2. Rampage, or Cecil Seashorts 0-2. The Raleigh writes Rampage for the alliteration there. Big over him. So Chris has had a tough schedule to begin the year. Or wait, no, he played Fear Boners. Whatever. I don't know what I'm even saying about you anymore, Chris. But your X Factor, I said, was your running back 2. You played Woodhead, which was the correct call. Although he didn't perform spectacularly, he only scored 9 points, so not quite double figures. Rampage, I asked, will you play down to your competition? You did not. You scored 143 versus a projection of 146. There's a lot of teams that scored less than projections this week. But overall, you were right there with your projections. Your team performed well. Gronk, I said, was your other X Factor. He didn't get the touchdown that he got in week 1. He didn't get that this week. Still playing less than 45% of the offensive snaps. I don't know that he's going to be a stud if that's all that he's playing. I did say that Matt Ryan would have a bad game this week. I was correct. Cincinnati's defense shut him down, only 9 points. Reitzma, the Rampagers, really blew this open with huge games from Jimmy Graham, the number 1 tight end in fantasy, and Brandon Marshall, 3 touchdowns, even though, as of 1 o'clock, he only had a 25% chance of playing. The Rampage, they rolled the dice a little bit. Maybe they had someone on their bench that they could have played if he was out, but leaving him in, even though he wasn't supposed to play, worked out for him. So this was a blowout. Chris, you can rest easy knowing that there's nothing that you could do in order to win this matchup. It's not like you could have played a couple guys differently and won. So Chris, the head coach, is really pissed off at Chris, the GM. The head coach is like, I can't win with these guys. The GM, you need to get me better players. It's funny because Chris is having an argument with himself. And then finally, the matchup of the week, the impact matchup of the week. No 0-2 hole for Brian either. He scored the most points this week. He's back to being the favorite in our division with him beating me and coupled with Mike's loss. I said his X Factor was going to be Ellington. Had 11 points, double figures. Still not great, but not bad. My X Factors, I said, were going to be Crabtree, who did bounce back. Had a good game, 21 points. And then Jamal Charles. 1 effing point after only 6 points in week 1, paying over $130. That's averaging 3.5 points per game and is not going to be available for a while. High ankle sprain. They don't exactly know when he's going to come back. So some of Brat's bright spots. Rodgers tops among quarterbacks this week. I did say that my wide receivers were not going to be able to hang with his wide receivers. It was somewhat close. His wide receivers outscored mine 58-45. And then I'm like, oh, I should gain ground with running backs, especially with Peterson out. I've got Forte, I've got Jamal Charles, and I could have really destroyed him on running backs. I just played the wrong running backs. I stupidly played two of the top 3 running backs in the league, and Forte and Charles. They combined for 9 points. Darren Sproles and Ahmad Bradshaw combined for 56 points on my bench. Not beating myself up over this too much. No one would play Sproles and Bradshaw over Forte and Charles. But yeah, if I would have, I could have won. But that's a really, really big stretch. So I think I only went 2-4 this week. I hit my 2 locks, Rob and Durs. I think I lost every other matchup. Oh no, 3-3 because I called Rampage over Cecil Seashorts as well. So even if I was guessing at complete random, I should expect to get 3 out of 3. It's not really acceptable. But before I let you guys go, yesterday or the day before, Sunday, huge injuries. I'm going to run through, I think 1, 2, 3, like 8 or 9 of them. Oh, and along with suspensions, how they impact teams going forward, starting with least impactful down to most impactful. So RG3 out indefinitely. I don't think it hurts the Redskins. They got Kirk Cousins, Sparty on. And the dash, they do have Russell Wilson and EJ Manuel. Wilson is a serviceable fantasy quarterback. Since his rookie year, RG3 has not been the same runner, not putting up the same kind of points, so I don't think it's a huge loss for Mike. Next, No Sean Moreno on Ivan's team. Bean Snap, Gafarlik Bogan Shoots, Quiz My Pants 2, the other one. I'm putting it down here. I mean, it really decimates his running back core, but doesn't really matter. I don't think Ivan's trying anyway. Next, Deshaun Jackson. This had the potential to be much more impactful. Excuse me. But it sounds like he's going to be back this week. If he's not, Justin Kenthrow and Steven Jackson, who's still the main running back in Atlanta. Who knows for how much longer, but as of right now. Next, AJ Green. This is another one that could have been much more impactful. It sounds like he's only going to miss 1 week. Cincinnati has their bye week in week 4, and then he's expected to be back. Durs is loaded at wide receiver, but lacks in the depth. In AJ's absence, he's going to have to throw out either Sean Green or Akeem Nicks. There's a huge drop-off, but the drop-off is not going to be that long. So expect Green back in a couple weeks. Ryan Matthews on the Rampage. In a vacuum, it doesn't really kill him because he's loaded, but Eddie Lacy is dinged up, so if Lacy is out, Reitzman's going to have to rely on James Starks, which magnifies the Matthews loss. Vernon Davis, he had a great first week, not so much the second week. He's out for a while. This does hurt my team. I have to replace him. He is my second tight end, though, having Julius Thomas. So I have to replace him with either Bolden or Eric Ebron. Doug with Mark Ingram and Ray Rice. I'm throwing Rice in here yet, even though he's not on his team. But that decimates Doug's running back core. He does have Terrence West, so it's a good thing that Ben Tate got injured. But other than that, he's going to have to rely on either Bernard Pierce, Run DMC, or D'Angelo. So not spectacular options for Doug there with those 2 running backs. And Ingram was a good surprise the first 2 weeks. And then for the most impactful, I actually have a tie between 2 guys. One, Jamal Charles. I don't really know when he's coming back. I do have Jonathan Stewart, who might be an option to play if D'Angelo continues to be out. Darren Sproles and Ahmad Bradshaw. Obviously, they had huge weeks this week. I don't necessarily plan on them continuing that. And then Adrian Peterson. Sounds like he's playing this week. I know that the NFL system takes a while to get things covered. Maybe he gets suspended. But if he is suspended, Brad's going to be hurting. He's got Hobble Ellington and Fred Jackson as his next 2 options. So 1450, kept this under 15 minutes so I can actually put it on YouTube. Peace.